Kyle was wrong. Kyle was wrong. All right, here's an email I got to guy@heyguy.co, or you can just go to heyguy.co. There's a form there. You can fill it out. And here's what it says. With draft season approaching, I see a lot of criticism directed at Kyle Shanahan for past draft decisions. Many seem to believe that Shanahan has absolute control over personnel decision with John Lynch as a figurehead. This isn't true, and there's evidence to support it. For example, Larry Krueger and John Lund recently discussed on air how Shanahan fought against drafting a kicker in 2023, and he gives me a link, which I clicked on, and I watched the video of Lund and Krueger. He says, for the record, I wanted a running back. The story goes, as Lund told it, that they're doing the show from the radio studios, which are in Levi Stadium during the draft, and Shanahan, they draft Moody at pick 99, and Shanahan comes in and says, I wanted a running back. And he and John Lynch and Greg Papa and John Lund all laugh and laugh and laugh, which, by the way, I believe that story. But here's the thing. Here's where Kyle Shanahan was wrong. Jake Moody was the better pick. I'll address the question in a second of whether or not it's evidence that Kyle Shanahan doesn't have control over personnel decisions. But who did Kyle Shanahan want to draft? I think who he wanted to draft was a guy who the Niners signed last year, Israel Abanikanda. He was the 143rd pick in that draft. The Niners drafted Moody at 99. They had another pick at 101. They could have drafted Abanikanda then or some other running back. They didn't. They took Cameron Latu. Bad pick. Next, the next running back that was drafted was 115. So a few picks later, Rashawn Johnson to the Bears. The Niners did not draft before 143. They drafted a few picks later, Darrell Luter, and Israel Abanikanda went to the Jets at 143. Jake Moody was a better pick than Israel Abanikanda. So if Kyle Shanahan, when Kyle Shanahan got overruled there, whoever overruled him won some equity points. Hopefully with Kyle Shanahan. Like, oh, I didn't want to draft a kicker, but that running back I wanted, we could have traded 101 back to 142 and drafted that guy I wanted. Would have been an overdraft and a bad pick. So he was wrong. He was wrong. Now, that said, let's read on before I address is there evidence to support that he doesn't have the personnel decisions. Favorite topic here. This got me thinking about Trey Lance, the email reads. While speculative, I think it's possible that Jed York pushed Shanahan to trade up for a high upside quarterback after the 2020 season. Here's my reasons. One, Shanahan and Lynch were quick to move on from Lance because he didn't seem invested. They didn't seem invested in developing him. Shanahan even used him like a running back. Well, they'd watched him play. So would I. I was in favor of the pick. If you're new here, I was in favor of the pick. But it became clear that, yes, you were going to need to run him. Two, signing of Sam Darnold was very telling. They moved on from Lance the moment they signed Darnold before training camp even started. No, they moved on from Lance before they signed Darnold. They moved on from Lance the second Brock Purdy played the way Brock Purdy played. Trey Lance had his chance. They gave him a chance. During Purdy's first snaps, garbage time. This is a good email. During garbage time against Kansas City, York reportedly he threw a pick, and York said sarcastically to Shanahan, I thought you said this guy was good. And then number 4, pre-draft reports indicated a rift in the organization with Shanahan favoring Mac Jones, trading up to 3 before evaluating the QB felt uncharacteristic for Shanahan and Lynch, who were generally conservative decision makers. Seems plausible it was a York-driven move. Possible, I think it was very possible that moving up was a Shanahan-driven move, too. It's the kind of thing a coach would do. It is also the kind of thing an owner would do. Trade up without knowing who to pick. It's a bad operation. But I think a lot of what's happening, I do think Kyle has personnel decision. I do think Kyle is a controlling guy when it comes to how he wants his organization to go. But I do think he respects John Lynch. And if the scouts are coming to him going, Kyle, this is, and Jed York, by the way, this is insane. You don't trade up to 3 for Mac Jones. We are not doing that. We are not doing that. That is different than, as this email says, I'm surprised York hasn't received more blame for the Lance situation. If this were the Cowboys, everyone would just blame Jerry Jones. Yes. Well, Jed used to take a lot of blame back when he did a lot of press conferences and stuff and lost. Jerry Jones does press conferences every week, does regular phone calls to the radio, has not sniffed the Super Bowl. So the last, the Shanahan era, Jed York has been a better owner than Jerry Jones, and his team has been good. So they've competed for truly competed for championships. So I don't think it's never good business, quote unquote, to have the owner get involved in football decisions. But if you or I own the team, it may be occasional that you listen to some football people, you evaluate the debate that's going on and go, guys, Kyle, hey, it's your call, man. But are you really going to? I think it's kind of crazy. This is me. Now, I think that John Lynch is the guy that goes to Kyle and says, Kyle, I know you like Mac. And by the way, Mac Jones, not a top half NFL starter or maybe even a starter at all, better than Trey Lance. But we're not taking that guy at 3. The funny thing is, drafting Mac Jones at 3, he would have been a better player than Trey. It might have been as disastrous. Almost as, maybe not as, but almost as. I do think he would have, at least looked like Nick Mullins or something for Kyle Shanahan, which is better than it looked for Lance. But that was a mess. But I do think I think 2 things are true. I think Kyle has final decision-making power. I do think he respects and listens to John Lynch. And it's why I've said a few times, like, the post-Lynch era in San Francisco, and we almost had it because television networks or Amazon offered him a lot of money, or were willing to offer him a lot of money. For those watching, I love Phil's coffee. It's my go-to. Free. It's not a sponsor. Just love Phil's people. If Phil's people are out there, just know it says "Tell a Friend" on the cup. Not an ad. Just know every week when I get my weekly haircut in the city, I go in to your location on Polk Street, and it's the only coffee I make at home. So, but I do think the post Lynch era, will Kyle be able to find somebody who he trusts enough to talk him out of stuff? Hey, I want to take a running back. Well, Kyle, the scouts say, or Parag, whatever the case is, this is not value here. It's the one thing, that's not the one thing. It's one of the many things you say about the Eagles. They are a very value-driven drafting team because they're because they have a general manager who's in charge, not a coach, and a general manager who really cares about draft value. And obviously, they have a good analytics department. They do a lot well. I saw, was it Kevin Clark? Somebody I saw wrote on the internet today or yesterday that after the last Eagles Super Bowl win, he went to Philly and was like, I want to do an article about the analytics department. And somebody in the organization was like, analytics are great, but we win because we have a great defensive line and offensive line. They replaced that. Honestly, look, we'll see what happens with Ricky Pearsall, but Zach Frazier as a center last year would have been a nice pick. But now here, but here's what I'll say about that. They need Ricky Pearsall now. I wouldn't want to be drafting a receiver this year when you have other needs. Now that they're moving on from Debo, they now actually need this guy they have. So they've got a guy in-house who's shown some promise. They need him. Here's the other thing. Trent Williams is coming back. This is one of the news stories that is not. John Lynch said last month, like, Trent is committed. He's coming back. He got hurt this year. They really need Trent Williams to be